Welcome to Bible Slash Chat. Gus, hello.
John, how are you?
Take three. Just kidding. Hey, so we had a question from the guy who publishes these videos.
EW.
We'll call him EW to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
Or should we? Never mind. EW is his name. We'll just go with that. He had a really good question, actually.
Very good.
He's a sweet guy, goes to our church, loves the Lord. He's been helping us out in a lot of ways at church. And he was sharing that he's just started a dating relationship with this girl. They're just getting into it, and they really like each other. And he was wondering, like, okay, what are some ways that we can, like, get to know each other more spiritually? Like, how can we grow spiritually together? They don't go to the same church right now, though that would ultimately be the goal, obviously, if they're going to get married. But that would be, he was wondering, like, are there some ways that he can maybe connect with her, grow spiritually, and is looking for maybe some more like practical advice.
Yeah.
Normally we give like very specific biblical things. The Bible doesn't talk about dating, so it's hard to make some of these evaluations. And yet we live in a culture where we have to do that.
Yeah.
So what would be your maybe your advice for him?
My sage advice.
Your sage advice for him from your pastoral wisdom and experience. What are ways that he can grow spiritually closer to her?
I think that a good way to grow is, and I mean this, like we were just kind of laughing about this, but to talk about the word together and to talk about specifically what he is learning as a leader in Scripture. I mean, he's not married, so it's not like he's going to be doing family worship with his girl.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that one good way is to talk about, okay, this is what, our pastor's been going through in our church. Here's a sermon that you could listen to. This is a book that's been helpful to me. These are some ways that the Lord has changed me in the last few weeks even. Ask poignant spiritual questions too, as to like, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
I love this book called The Gospel Primer.
Yes, it is the best.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
I want you to read it. What do you think? And I think that's helpful, even to talk about when Melissa and I were dating. Obviously, we weren't doing family worship together. Yeah. But we would have tons of conversations about. We went to the same church. Yeah. So about the sermons that we listened to, and half of the time, we talk about like the songs that we would sing, and half of the time it was so helpful to get her perspective as to what she was thinking, and that actually knitted our hearts. But it really not in a romantic way, but in a spiritual way. Yeah, where you're thinking, even if this relationship didn't go anywhere, it was still a righteous relationship where you can do that with any. It's just doing the one another. Yeah. And to truly love one another in sharing Scripture, sharing what you're learning, and specifically sharing your heart as to, hey, this is what I've seen. The Lord work in my heart today. Totally. And not in an intimate way. Yet. Because we don't know what's going to happen.
Totally. Yeah. Right? Exactly. Oh, that's super wise. That's good counsel. So in that case, like you and Melissa are going to the same church, so you're hearing the same sermons. You get out of church, and you're talking about them. What if you have two people going to different churches? Yeah. Same thing. Like you just take what you're learning from the sermon and talk about it.
Yeah, I think so. And even just there might be some pushback from both sides because you're going to different churches. I don't know, theology.
Yeah. Probably very similar theology.
Very similar theology. So hopefully. Then questions, hey, what do you think about this? Our pastor talked about this. We're going through 1 John. You're going through 2 Samuel. How does that work? Well, I'm serving in this way at the church. I want to serve this other way. Yeah. And I think those conversations are helpful. The other thing too, I would tell, not only just this guy, but any person who's dating someone from another church is to get to know the leadership of the other church as well, so that you can ask questions. So who am I dating? Yeah. Because you can now with apps and all that, you meet people. They sound great on the app. They look great on the app. Yeah. But then they might not necessarily reflect spiritually what they are saying. Yeah. Or the conversations alike.
So like, do your background check on them through the leadership of the other church?
Why not? You could even if they're in
No,
the
I
same
mean,
church.
I think there's some wisdom to that. Yeah.
There-
If it's a good church, if you're aware that it's a good church and they're serving,
They're
never in
serving,
good
yeah.
standing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're actually get made aware of that
Yeah.
in that sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been to that church? You know the pastor's name?
Yeah. Huh? Yeah.
So,
That is a huge church. It's hard
Yeah, it's-
sometimes. But okay, so like let's say so then that's super helpful on that side. What about things like maybe getting together, reading a book together? You go your separate ways, read a book, come talk about it. Other
I'm
ways
not a big
to-
fan of that yet.
Why?
No, not yet.
You think it's too
Yeah,
close?
too intimate. Yeah.
Why, though?
Yeah, I think it depends.
Like you're both
where-
learning the same
yeah,
thing.
it depends where the relationship is going. I think that I would
I'm not saying a
advise-
book about marriage. I'm saying like you get together
When
and read
sinners say I
Grudem's,
do.
Grudem's theology. Like you reading a book like
But still, it's a little. I would feel it's a little intimate in that.
more than
sense.
listening to a sermon. And then like discussing that sermon.
Yeah, I think so. I think that because now you are doing the teaching as a man. So
Mm.
before you're sort of sharing what you're both learning.
Mm.
So you might listen to one of the sermons from her church. You might listen to one of yours. You might talk about it.
Yeah,
It's an equal playing field. But now when you're going through a book, as a man, you're gonna take the initiative.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
to teach, and that changes things
Yeah.
a little bit.
Hmm.
That's how I would see it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I mean, again.
I do have wacky views.
We
on
come
things.
up with these two views things. It's always good, but that's okay. That's actually helpful to think through. So then, at a certain point in the relationship, you would say that's fine, like as it
Yes,
progresses.
of course, as it progresses.
Yeah. You just say like early on, maybe doing something that's more
Yeah.
like teachy like
Yeah.
that, put you in a little bit more of an authority position
Yeah.
than maybe you should
Yeah.
be. Okay, oh, that's helpful. And then like, what about like praying together?
I would do anything that I would do with another guy. You can
Okay.
do. You can
Okay.
pray together.
Yeah.
Without any problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can share prayer requests.
Yeah,
But again, just make sure that doesn't become this.
yeah.
Uh,
Just keep it at that Christian brother or sister
Yeah.
level. Yeah,
sisterly.
yeah,
So what I would tell this guy is whatever you would share with your sister,
yeah,
like fleshly sister,
yeah.
you can share with this girl.
Okay, that's super helpful.
Same thing.
Well, I mean, not to push back on your thing before, but like you would do that with
I don't
like
have
two
sisters.
guys. No, like two guys can go through a book together.
Yeah. Yeah,
not like-
but
I
I,
mean-
think with this, there's that expectation that he's gonna be doing the teaching. So
Well,
he's
I mean,
gonna
if you're
be-
reading the book and you're like, hey, what's your perspective on this? Someone else is teaching. It's just that the third party is written.
yeah, I guess I would say prepare for a breakup.
Oh wow, bleak. Okay. Well, anyway, that's good. That's helpful. So last.
Sorry, EW, I'm not thinking of you.
No, that's good. Okay, so last question here, and that like maybe another like layer of question, but we can talk more about it. But then like, at what point should like they're going to different churches?
Yeah.
As the relationship progresses, like obviously when they're married, they got to be going to the same church. Like,
Hopefully.
like would you encourage them to start moving toward that if they're really liking each other,
Yeah,
getting on
oh.
the same page?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And getting under the same elder board, being under the same preaching.
Yeah. And the same ministries. And also, you're going to see a different facet from that person now that you're going to the same church, how they relate to friends, to people, to the other singles,
Yeah.
and then even to the younger, the kids. You want to see that. That's a big part that you're missing. When
You want to
get together.
observe those interactions. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And then let's say you have you do end up breaking up, right? Are there ways that you would suggest like maybe that's for a new video?
Yeah.
We'll do a different video on this.
I'm not really good at breakups.
Hey. Breaking up is hard to do, guys. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful for you on dating and spiritual life and starting to merge your spiritual life. If you have questions on this or any other topic, you can always email us at info@faithbibleoc.org. Thanks so much.